Welcome to Pure Western Realm, tackling the issues that plague Western society one day at a time, one video at a time. So today we got a real gem of a video from Fox News. On its face, it doesn't seem really disturbing, but if you read between the lines, which I'm going to do here, some of the devil is in the details, as they say. So without further ado, let's get to it.
So, Mo, I'm going to start with you. How did you see this? People are trying to draw comparisons between the UK and could this happen here. The way I see it, there's a lot of things we do better when it comes to fighting terrorism, communication, Muslim immigrants assimilating better that they don't do over there. How fair do you think that those comparisons are?
I think anyone who thinks we're doing better off here, or that our policies are working, is deluding themselves. The fact is, we've brought a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing into our corral. Now all we're doing is sitting around waiting for them to bite. Is that sanity? Is that health? Is that a prosperous nation? No, it's one on the brink of collapse. And here we are, not even realizing that we're about to fall.
Look, I mean, just listening to the conversation that you and Eric just had, I mean, I don't think these are mutually exclusive arguments. I don't think they should be mutually exclusive arguments. We should be outraged. I'm outraged.
Right.
We all are outraged by what happened.
Maybe it would have helped to hear what the arguments actually were. I think that was on part of the clip that was before what was uploaded to YouTube. But I will say this, I don't think anybody's denying that we should be outraged. Barring that this is a hoax, as some people are already coming out and claiming it is, and they do have a couple of compelling pictures with, that are obviously photoshopped with shadows pointing the wrong direction or whatever. I'm not ready to call it a hoax just yet. I mean, I don't know. I don't have enough evidence one way or the other, although I'm looking at it. But I will say one way or the other, yeah, everybody's outraged. How is that ever in question?
And we should go after the bad guys. But that doesn't mean we should slow down our way of life. That's what they want to do. They want to disrupt us. Ari will remember this. I remember President Bush in the days following 9/11 taking a very strong tack in talking about going after the terrorists, but also saying they are not going to slow us down as Americans. We are going to continue to live our lives.
He stood on a pile of rubble, and I was there. I was there for that. Yeah. He stood with the megaphone, and Ari, correct me if I'm wrong, and he said, "We're coming after you. We're going to get you." Yeah, I understand that you're not going to take us down, but that's a far cry from the mayor the very next day of Manchester saying, "Oh, you know what, business as usual," or Katty Kay, a prominent BBC reporter saying, "We need to get used to this in Europe." No way, not here, not New York, not the United States.
Yeah, the other part of the narrative, I think, is missing.
There is a crucial bifurcation you have to make here. It is fully appropriate for the public to say, we want to get on with our lives, we want to have business as usual. But the job of government is to destroy these people. And that is what elected officials have to say, convey, and that has to be the emotions that they pass on. You want the public to feel that they can delegate this to the government, and it can be destroyed, it can be stopped. It was when we said we're going to do it to communism.
Yeah, because as any SJW is more than happy to tell you, sure, communism's dead. They're not communists nowadays. They're socialists, which are totally different from communists. Nobody really knows how exactly, but they claim to be, so we're going to accept it. We're going to just say, yeah, we destroyed communism. Shit, communism's alive and well, pal. It's alive more in our country now than ever. Now, the other underlying point that this guy's making, or not so underlying, is that we need to delegate power to the government to go after these terrorists. Why go after them when we can choose an isolationist, homogenous society? Yeah, that's right. That's a solution. Throw them all out and stop any more from coming in. Does it sound extreme? Yeah, sure it does. Will it work? Absolutely. Which is more than I can say for anything they're coming up with.
And we did. It was when you remember the Red Brigade and the Irish Republican Army. Those were stopped. People thought, we can't stop it. There are going to be bombs in the street. You can stop it. You have to stop it by playing permanent offense.
So to stopping it, let's talk about the fact that this suicide bomber here was in Libya just 3 weeks prior to, and then returned to England after that. That strikes me because it's my understanding, Eric, I want to go to you on this, that President Trump is doing a new strategy to annihilate this type of terrorism. Specifically, Defense Secretary Mattis is saying that he's doing a different tactical approach. Instead of waiting for them to come out, he's going in, going directly in, being more aggressive, giving them more leeway to be more aggressive in their ability to go in, just so that this type of thing doesn't happen, so that people are not returning home, either sharing intelligence or becoming more radicalized and then going back. Do you think that's
very important?
Totally irrelevant if you just throw them all out and not let any more in. I mean, it's that simple. We don't need to placate all the ones that are here already. Just throw them out. Return America to the way it used to be. That's the solution. This never happened 100 years ago because they weren't here.
So
right?
Trump outlines in that big terror speech that he gave a couple of days ago, he said this is the war on terror is a fight of good versus evil. That's a far cry from what we're hearing from the European officials. I'd also like to point out, you very accurately point out that this guy, Salman Abedi, went to Libya. He came back. He's been in Syria, allegedly in Syria as well. The whole family is a network of ISIS-trained fighters. Hang on, but this is very important. One of Trump's travel moratorium countries is Libya.
Yeah, well, that's great. But it really doesn't matter if you put all the countries in the Middle East in the moratorium. Stop them all from coming over. What makes you think somebody can't go from Libya to one of the countries that's not on the list and then come over here? I mean, that's ridiculous.
But when he says, let's hold off before we just indiscriminately let people come in from Libya, let's make sure, let's extreme vet them so we don't have Abedis coming to New York instead of Manchester.
I certainly have no problem with extreme vetting, but it's important to give ourselves credit, our leaders credit, for the fact that this hasn't happened here. That since 9/11, every single deadly Islamic terrorist attack has been by someone who was here legally or was a citizen.
And there you have it, folks. Right in the middle of patting themselves on the back, they decided to make my point for me. Thank you very much, guys. So, the point is, since 9/11, all the Islamic terrorist attacks carried out on U.S. soil were committed by people that were either citizens or were here legally. Think about that for a minute. I don't care how many moratoriums, I don't care how much extreme vetting you decide to implement. It won't matter. It won't solve the problem that's already here. That's what we need to do. Throw them out.
We do seem to be doing a good job of communicating. Our state, our federal, our local governments communicate with each other about these sorts of things the way that they just simply aren't in Europe. So that does have a lot to do with it, too, as well as assimilation. And another part of preserving our way of life, to me, is to make sure that we don't do things that could destroy our own civil liberties.
Yeah, well, the idea of any anti-terrorism policies being developed by government that don't infringe upon civil liberties is laughable. Of course we're going to lose civil liberties. There are a lot of people out there that will tell you that's the entire point of developing these policies, not really to combat terrorism, because they know you can't eliminate it altogether without eliminating it on our soil. It's already here, people. I mean, they're citizens, they're here legally. We're legally, that is, not illegally. And we're admitting that. And yet we're saying somehow the solution is to strengthen our resolve against foreign terrorists, when you yourself already said they're not attacking us. What's our problem here? Well, it's the ones that are here. So deal with them. But sadly, they're not going to tackle that issue. They want to avoid it altogether. They're going to sidestep it and hope to God that you and I don't think of it, people. They're going to want us to just focus on their message and totally ignore the elephant in the room. But the elephant is there. We all know it's there. The real fact of all this is, eventually, we are going to return to an intelligence gathering age and a lack of civil privacy age that's pre-Edward Snowden levels. And oddly enough, or maybe not so oddly at all, come to think of it, later on in this video, you're going to hear one of them mention him in a not very favorable light.
in trying to destroy ISIS. We don't want to. They want to take away our way of life. I want to be very careful that we don't let emotions run high and just do it for them.
Well, no, we don't need to be reactive. I agree with you, Kat. This is where we need to be smart. We need to have emotional and pragmatic intelligence here. To your point, using the strengths we have. Look, this was a place I was continuously criticizing President Obama around. I didn't think there was enough aggression on this issue of terror, for sure. So for all of the criticisms I have for President Trump, this is a place where I commend him. I commend him for saying, you know what, they're not a JV team. We're going to annihilate.
Can we point something out, though? And Ari, correct me if I'm wrong. President Obama was looking to substantially increase our the acceptance of refugees, the program. He went from, I think it was 116,000 in his last year. Hillary Clinton was looking for 400,000 or 500,000 refugees to take on. Do we not see the dangers of doing things like this?
Yeah, everyone sees the dangers of doing things like that. But, again, a lot of people out there will tell you that that's part of the whole plan to begin with. They want to inundate our country and all the Western countries with third world immigrants or refugees or whatever you want to call them. It's a culture shift. That's all it amounts to. It's nothing more glorious than that. Increasing the numbers to 500,000 a year just increases the rate of that culture shift. And they want to kick it into high gear. Sure. Does Trump want to scale it back? I hope so. But he better scale it back to zero, because at the rate we're going, even the reduced rate we're going now, we're still going to have that culture shift within a couple decades.
This family was a refugee family from Libya.
I'm not with you on this one. No, he was born in the United Kingdom. The Manchester terrorist was born in the United Kingdom.
His parents were refugees.
Weren't. Well, my mother was born abroad. I was born here. So I'm not sure the solution is to say because people's parents were born somewhere else, you can't be here. I am not with President Trump on the Muslim ban. I never have been, the so-called Muslim ban.
Not a Muslim ban. Come on, let's just call it what it is. Well, it's not a Muslim ban. It's a ban. It's a moratorium.
But he had initially said he wanted.
God, I hate it when they all ramble at the same time. But let me take this opportunity to point out that it should be a Muslim ban. Is that extreme? Again, yes. And will it work? Yes. So let's get past the stigma of being extreme and let's address the real problem. Yeah, we need a Muslim ban. Sorry, people, but that's the reality of it.
Religion.
From the 7 countries, the issue here is if you have people coming in from a place that's lawless, like Syria, where you cannot verify anybody's identity because there's no town hall to check with. It's a bunch of rubble. People can assume an alternative identification, and no one can catch them.
So again, what's stopping them from going from Syria to, say, Germany or to Italy or to Israel and hopping a plane right over to the U.S.? Nobody's going to stop them from there.
That's legitimate. Stop people coming from lawless places. But places where there is a rule of law, even if it's a Muslim country, if it's a Muslim country, that in itself is not a basis to ban people.
The majority of the refugees that we took in 2016, 116,000, I think the biggest feeder was Syria.
Well, Syria, I've made the distinction on Syria because
and none of them have killed anyone in a terrorist attack. Might add that. All the refugees we took in, none of them have killed anyone in a terrorist attack.
Mm-hmm. Well, reckon I've been playing that pick 3 lottery every day. I won nothing yet, but the odds, well, I'll get it eventually. All right, Dan.
But again, we are 5 times the size of Germany as a country, and we took in 1/10 of the number of refugees that Germany wants to take in. This is what I'm talking about.
So we don't become Germany.
But we don't become Germany.
The solution
that's what Trump is trying to do.
I want to get Mo in.
I mean, look, I think part of the problem is what we're not talking about is what happens in these refugee camps when we're not pulling people out. Now, I'm not saying open the doors wide open, come one, come all, right? We have a very strong vetting system for the refugees that the United States brings in, and we got to give our law enforcement, our immigration folks, and Homeland Security all the credit that they deserve for that. But these refugee camps are prime recruiting territory for ISIS.
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell what this guy's really getting at, besides, if you bring them over from the camps, I mean, they could be bad guys or they could end up with the bad guys. And, I mean, they come over here after that and we're going to have to fight them. And, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I'm a fighter. We can't change what we are, but I mean, do we want to have to fight extra, or do we want to pick the time and place, you know?
For terrorists, if we can, through vetting, help people get out of that and get back on their feet, and what we have seen is that they have become productive members of our society. They're not out there causing trouble. They're not out there creating terror attacks. There's got to be a middle ground here rather than all or nothing.
Or, Mo, there's a stronger defense, and that is intelligence. The issue is not going to be solved through refugee vetting or through not allowing some countries in or not to come in. The issue is how aggressive are we with our intelligence gathering and operations.
Dia, now he's finally getting to saying what he wanted to say all along. That it's not about the terrorists, not really. I mean, it's about they want more intelligence on everyone in the U.S., and that's you and me. That it's not just a bunch of Muslims, a bunch of immigrants or refugees, and it's everyone. There's citizens and everyone else, and that's what they're getting at. That's what they want. They want it so bad. It's power.
And this is where Edward Snowden has done irreparable damage to the United States, and the critics of the NSA have. These are the programs that you have to have in an open, tolerant, welcoming, inclusive country, which is what the United States is.
Oh, yeah. Just look at how smug this prick is while he tells us that we live in a melting pot, an inclusive country, which nobody ever wanted in the first place. Except those who were coming in. The ones of us that were already here didn't want it, that's for sure.
And that has to be married to a tough intelligence operation to gather information on the people who take advantage of our generosity and would do us harm.
And I think what you just said is important. They have to be married to one another, right? Too much of the conversation right now is either or. It's this or it's this. The reality is if we're going to take on terrorism, we have to have it all. We have to be able to use intelligence. We have to be open and compassionate where it makes sense. We have to have the vetting. We have to have strong military, strong diplomatic, strong economic leverage.
Here's the problem with what you're saying. Europe has historically open borders within the countries. We've talked about that ad nauseum.
Yeah, and thanks to left-wing politicians and their cronies, we too have an open borders policy. We've been letting people into our country illegally for so many years, we don't even know the damn difference anymore. But another thing that's very important is what these people are still getting at, and I want to point it out again. Now they're saying we need to not only be aggressive and go after terrorists, but we need the intelligence. We once again need to spy on all Americans, tapping their phone calls and gathering their emails, harvesting all the information we can on everyone. This is what Edward Snowden undid, apparently. This is what we are told was undone as a result of his blowing the whistle on the operation at the NSA. So, taking these people at face value, we're left to believe that this is what they want. They want to roll that back and get right back into that big brother mode that they were in before Snowden decided to do what he did.
There are also countries within Europe who are willing to be more aggressive taking on refugees. And as Ari astutely points out, you don't know where a vast majority of these people come from. They don't have educational records. They don't have work records. They don't have prison records. They just show up and they're able to come in. Some of our leaders, Hillary Clinton was looking to quadruple or multiply by 5 the number of refugees we were willing to take. That becomes very dangerous because there is no way to vet who these people are.
But we don't want to equate all refugees, though, Eric, with that type of risk, because we know that's not true.
So let me get fucking straight what you're fucking saying here. You're saying if I got 10 landmines in my backyard and I go step on 9 of them and they don't blow up, and I step on the 10th one and it blows me to shit, I'm supposed to celebrate the 9 that didn't? You motherfucker, you.
Not all refugees represent the type of risk. This is where we have to be smart and target those that we do. Again, going back to accurate criminal profiling, not religious or racial profiling.
Absolutely. All right.
So let me get straight where you're staying here. You're telling me that it's important not to discriminate against landmines. Sometimes they go off. When they do, we can blame faulty circuits. We can blame the people that planted them there. Yeah, we can blame a lot of things. This is true. But how about this? How about instead of shredding the blame and
passing it out to everywhere we can send it. How about we just take all the fucking landmines and get rid of them? That's what I say. Yeah, anyway. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed making it. It was a blast. But, yeah, in summary, I think what we really need is to look at the problem for what it is. It's a cultural problem. It's not even necessarily a racial one, but it is, but it isn't. But mainly it's a cultural issue. We need to keep American culture intact, and the only way to do that is to close our borders, not to open them further, not to keep them open, and not to nudge them a little bit shut, but to just close them off altogether. Anyway, please, if you would, subscribe, smash that like button, and more good content to follow.